Welcome to RSAC Conference 2025. We're recording from the CyberRisk TV studio at Marriott Marquis in San Francisco. Thank you to the sponsor of today's media partner program, CyberRisk GTIG Collaboration Center. I'm your host, Adrian Sanabria, and joining me for this interview is Matthias Chin, CEO and founder at CloudSign AI. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
So tell us a little bit about CloudSign before we dive into, we've got some very interesting questions here.
Yeah, sure.
What products you do?
Yeah, CloudSign AI, we are a cybersecurity company, startup based in Singapore. We started with our own patented web security and web defacement monitoring technology. We typically engage enterprises and governments across 8 countries to help them secure their web applications. Right. So recently, what we have evolved into is we are entering into GenAI security because we see that a lot of our enterprise customers and so on starting to pick up to adopt GenAI, right? Be it for their employee usage or rolling out GenAI apps, right? So moving forward, we are all in on helping enterprises to secure their GenAI applications.
Yeah, and it's this is something I've remarked on a lot is attacks against GenAI look a lot like what you'd use a web application firewall to block or defend against, right? Very similar?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do get that questions a lot, and our research shows that the GenAI firewall, which is our first GenAI product, is highly different from a typical network and web application firewall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what are the differences and why is it different? So a few areas. So firstly, the attack surface is different because when hackers attack a GenAI application, they are not just looking at the web application or network as well. They're actually attacking the LM or the GenAI model behind it, right? To jailbreak it, to get it to do funny things or say funny things, right? So the attack surface is different. We also see that the attack methodology is different. How is it different? When we attack a web application, we put in a technical SQL injection or cross-site scripting command. But when you attack a GenAI model, you're using human language.
Yeah, it looks like social engineering, right? It looks like you're trying to trick a human.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because, well, now attackers, they don't need to know typical SQL injection commands to attack GenAI apps. They can attack it with English, with French, with Spanish, and so on.
Yeah, different languages. I've tried that before. That when the DeepSeek model first came out, like that worked. Switching to Spanish, for example. Just fascinating how the technology works. Not something we're used to from any other technology.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So we have also done a fair bit of research into supporting multilingual languages. And that's important because what we see is that when there's an English defense that works well against English prompt injection attacks, the defense level drops when you switch the language to Spanish or Bahasa Indonesia.
Oh, interesting.
Or you mix up the languages a bit.
Yeah.
That's something we are working very hard on, and that's where we are rolling out our multilingual language defense for GenAI firewall to protect GenAI apps.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I deal with this on a daily basis, and being in the U.S., very English-centric, most of the companies I'm advising, not all U.S.-based, but English-speaking countries-based. So I was completely unaware. You needed different defenses for when you use different languages with them.
Yeah, I think even in the U.S. environment, mainly English, right? But for U.S. companies who have a global presence, they are serving countries in Europe, in Asia. They'll need to look at some of this multilingual defense.
Well, it's one of the wonderful things about the technology is it can so easily switch to different languages and use different languages.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So we actually did a fair bit of data research and collection on, for example, starting with Bahasa Indonesia. So we collected a lot of our proprietary safety and security data so that we feed it into our threat vector database and models to make sure that our Bahasa Indonesian defense work well in a Bahasa Indonesian environment. And that can be easily extended to many other languages as well.
Very cool. So let's jump into, I understand you have a survey on, and I'm, again, very curious to find out in other parts of the world if you're seeing and hearing some of the same things that I'm hearing from security leaders here in the U.S. and Canada. But what are some of the top concerns that you're hearing from folks?
Yeah, we just completed a very interesting and insightful state of Gen AI security survey in Southeast Asia, right? And I think the results are relevant to many other CIOs as well. We interviewed more than 150 CIOs in partnership with Frost & Sullivan, right? And the feedback we got was quite interesting. 83% of the CIOs who are in charge of AI and cybersecurity, who has oversight of those, and they said that the security of Gen AI apps is definitely vital for them, right? And if we drill down a little bit deeper, so what is Gen AI security and what are their top concerns? 3 major concerns came out as top of the mind, right? So first is the malicious prompt inputs, right?
Yeah.
Because we all know that Gen AI is vulnerable to malicious prompt inputs. So they are definitely looking at ways to defend against some of these malicious prompts, which could be English, which could be in different languages, as mentioned earlier. Yeah. Secondly, they are also highly concerned about data leaks, right? Data leakage. In fact, we heard quite a number of CIOs and CISOs that have either fully blocked the use of Gen AI apps, right, in the organization,
Which is very difficult.
which
also.
is which is very actually, to be frank, it's not that difficult. Just block it, right? The current approach is they either block it fully or they allow it fully, but there is very little in between, right?
Right.
Yeah, so that was another major concern that came up, data leaks from Gen AI. The third is regulations and governance, right? With all this adoption of Gen AI and, be it to deploy homegrown apps or usage, how do we, as a CIO or CISO, how do we govern this, right? So many of them has shared that for now they are a little bit helpless and still trying to figure out what to do as the technology advances and adoption advances ahead of them. Some of them are trying to hold it back, right? But they can only do it for so long. Some of them are just letting it go, but they are still looking for ways to manage this better in terms of visibility and control.
Yeah. It's so here, some of the percentages I've seen, I've been kind of shocked that even fairly conservative companies have jumped right in. They're so concerned about it being a competitive business advantage that they don't want to wait. And I've been kind of shocked with how quickly they've jumped into it. And the security teams I'm talking to say they've done it. They're already like we're just trying to catch up.
Yeah. So would that would expose different risks and different issues, right, coming up? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we already talked about this a little bit, about Gen AI firewalls and traditional network or web application firewalls being different. I suspect maybe one of the ways that they are similar, it seems to me that evasions will be possible. Like, with a web application firewall, you block one version of attack, somebody changes encoding or, changes something slightly, and now they get past it. And is it going to be the same with generative AI where, there's always like some new technique coming out or some new approach that maybe gets around it?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I think when we look at cybersecurity, right, no defense is 100%, right? When we look at AI, everything is also stochastic and, it's not deterministic as well. And we blend the two in and try to secure Gen AI, right? It's definitely never going to be 100% perfect because even when we send the same prompt to a LM, it can respond in different ways.
It
right?
does.
Yeah. So having said that, so how do we manage this, right? What we do is that we actually have our own benchmarking, right? We actually launched a LM security leaderboard where we tested a lot of the leading Gen AI models, be it open source or closed source, right? And then, so we look at their native defense and scoring, and then we add in our Gen AI firewall or additional guardrails that we have, and we do a benchmark to compare what's the improvement and so on. So most of the time, right, there will definitely be a fair bit of improvement, right? And so that is where we also advocate that, hey, if you're enterprise rolling out some of these Gen AI apps, you need to look at defenses or guardrails or firewalls that are relevant to your context and environment.
And you publish these benchmarks on your website. I was looking at them earlier.
Yes, we do. We do. It's publicly available. Yeah, and we do update them time and time, right? When the latest AI models,
Right.
foundation models get released. And one thing we learn is no model is perfect.
Yeah. A term I'm fairly new to here, GenAI guardrails.
Mhm.
Yeah, help me understand the difference between that and the firewalls.
Okay, yeah. So GenAI guardrails typically used by the AI community, right? It basically means certain kind of protection boundaries or certain kind of guards to prevent the AI models from behaving differently or out of whack, right?
So like
And-
alignment, system prompting are terms I've heard that you, is that kind of what you're talking about?
Those are some of it. So some of the guardrails are, it could be prompt injection guardrails, it could be off-topic guardrails, it could be hallucination guardrails or
Right.
toxicity guardrails that make sure that the AI or LM model do not use wrong words and so on. Yeah. Yeah, and we get that quite a fair bit. And the very common question is, how are guardrails different from our Gen AI firewall, right?
Yeah.
So what how we would respond to that is that Gen AI firewall is a guardrails plus plus plus,
Yeah.
right? And why is that the plus plus plus? Because there are at least 3 different areas we are different, right? Guardrails is a feature we have in our firewall, but on top of that, we add in our threat vector database. It's a little bit of live threat intel update to the firewall to make sure that, hey, you know, the guardrails have the latest defenses against new kind of
Yeah.
attacks, right? Secondly, with the firewall, we can configure the controls, right? Whether we want to block certain types of attacks or not. So it's not so easy to be done with just off-the-shelf guardrails. So this is something we've added. And the third area, from a cyber perspective, our firewall integrates well with SIEM and security tools, right? So that's not the case for every single type of AI guardrails out there. Yeah.
And it's interesting. I think it seems like it's more than just cybersecurity as well. You know, because these large language models can talk to you about anything. Like what they can do is extremely broad, but maybe you have a very specific use case. You know, like a support assistant, something like that. You need support
Yeah.
for a product or a service or something like that. You want it to stay on topic. You want it to stay
Yes.
on task. Like the Air Canada example is one that a lot of people know, where it offered a refund policy that didn't exist.
Yeah.
And then the person that talked to the AI chatbot took Air Canada to court and won. And the court said, no, the AI policy stands. Like you have to honor that policy. So yeah, just having some kind of alignment that says you're not allowed to create policy, like, might have been enough to stop that from happening. But I think when people think about, you know, some of these challenges with AI, they're just thinking about attacks. But it's not all malicious attacks, right? You know, it's you know, we talk about AI safety, you know, and
exactly.
you know, these guardrails. Correct me if I'm wrong, are for more than just cybersecurity.
Yes, yes. Yeah, yeah, exactly right. So when we went into the area of protecting AI apps, 2 major concerns that came up. One is the malicious inputs, which cyber folks like myself, we are familiar with. But the whole new area is the response from the AI systems. And that is in the area of, some people call it AI safety, right? AI trustworthiness or robustness. And we get that a lot because what we realize is that we don't just need to protect the input attacks, but we need to make sure that the outputs, they do not give the wrong information.
Yeah.
They do not hallucinate.
So it's almost like
right?
a DLP for the outputs, you know, trying
yes.
to detect data that shouldn't be there.
Yes, a DLP definitely. Also hallucination, right? Just like the Air Canada example you quoted, right? Is there's maybe no sensitive data leakage, but it's giving the wrong information,
Yeah.
right? So when we look at securing the Gen AI system, we need to take into account security. We need to take into account safety, both parameters, right? And I think that's an exciting new area because no longer as cyber professionals, we just need to care about injection
Right.
attacks, but
Yeah.
we need to make sure if we're helping to secure AI system, the safety of the AI system sometimes will be under our purview as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's often the same tools, right? That are fixing both of those. It doesn't make sense to split out the tools.
Yes, exactly. And the hackers or the pranksters or whoever you call them, are the same guy who actually jailbreak the system or get the AI system to spout nonsense or toxicity or biasness. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you would use the guardrails and the firewall. These are things you use together, right? It's not one or the other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we see in the deployment is it could be together. It could also be separate, right, as part of a multi-layered defense. Because when we talk about AI systems, sometimes the AI team will put in some form of their own guardrails. When then the cyber team comes in, right, they will still need to add in additional defenses against some of these prompt injection attacks or data leakage attacks.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much, Matthias Chin, for joining me today. Trying to get your name right.
Yes, thank you. Very nice chatting. Great
Yeah.
questions,
Yeah.
Adrian. Yeah.
Appreciate it. To find out more about CloudSign AI, please visit securityweekly.com/CloudSign RSAC. For all RSAC 2025 coverage by Cyber Risk Alliance, including the other 6 interviews from our media partner program with CyberSG TIG Collaboration Center, please visit securityweekly.com/RSAC. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Adrian. Yeah.